Yeah, Stella, baby. Finna get right. Here we go. Yeah, listen. I ain't really tryna hold too much pride. Feeling like Michael, how I beat those odds, yeah. She's a real winner, and I can't deny she fine as wine with time. I don't really care for the clout nor fame, but you better make sure you know my name, yeah. This is real life, and it ain't no game. When you see me in the skyline, knock me down, come back up. Watch her work, watch her strut down. I don't care what they say, I'ma still have my way. I'm alright, that's for sure. I know I can endure. Back and forth, on and on. Yes, I'm on quite a run, yeah.
Welcome to Rooted Within Her, your go-to podcast. We are founded off of Colossians 2 and 7, where we are rooted in Christ, strengthening our faith, and overflowing with thankfulness. I am Brittany Bossup, your host, a devoted mom, veteran, mental health therapist, author, international keynote speaker, and your wealth and wellness coach. We are going to be talking about mental health, storytelling, relationships, and making sure you feel empowered with a positive mindset each and every day. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. That's at Rooted Within Her. And go to our website, rootedwithinher.com, where you can get access to all of our resources to help you if you are a corporation looking to restructure your employee wellness, or if you are a divorced mom and you are looking for those resources to help you heal and rebuild. This is your go-to podcast. Again, that is rootedwithinher.com. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to Rooted Within Her. I am so excited today. We have a phenomenal guest joining us today, Miss Gloria. Hi, Miss Gloria. How are you?
Hi, Brittany. I'm great. How are you today?
Good. I'm just so excited that you were able to come on Rooted Within Her and just share your journey and just tell us all about everything that you are doing. So first, for starters, tell us, who is Gloria? Who are you and what is it that you do?
Well, I'm a psychologist, and I have been a psychologist for a very good reason. When I was a kid, I loved math. In high school, I wanted to teach math. In college, I majored in math. And I wanted to graduate in 3 years. I was on track to do that. I wanted to graduate with a 4.0. I was on track to do that. And then I ran into Calculus 2. The teacher, the professor in Calculus 2 faced the blackboard, filled the front blackboard, never turned around to the class, filled the side blackboard, never turned around to the class. You know where this story is going, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm headed home at Christmas. I have to catch a bus. I send a friend to check the professor's door to see what my grade is. She comes running across the parking lot screaming, "You got a D! You got a D!" And I went, yes, I never have to take this math class again. And psychology was my minor. I just loved it, right? It was a relief from math. I flipped those guys and I have never looked back. I love everything that I do in psychology, and I've worked with preschoolers all the way up through aging adults.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And it's so funny because as a mental health therapist, a lot of times the general public is very confused on the difference between the two. I've
Mhm.
had so many people tell me, wait a minute, I thought you're a psychologist. I'm like, no, I can help you with everything from your childhood, but I cannot prescribe you medication. How do you explain the difference to people when they come to you really determining, do they need a psychologist or do they need a licensed therapist?
Well, I'm a psychologist, not a psychiatrist,
Hmm.
right? And so the
And
difference
that's
is
another difference.
that's the difference is really easy. All right. If you
Right.
need medication, then I'm going to
Mhm.
get a consult with a good psychiatrist
That's right.
or with your internist. quite often people are not comfortable going to a psychiatrist, adding kind of a new professional into their life, but they're very comfortable with their internist, their general physician. And if those people have education where they are familiar with the medications, they're a really good resource for
Mhm.
people.
That's very, very true. And then with what you do, as what you do on a daily basis and with your background in math, do you feel like you had to go through that journey of the teacher having her back turned to you and you going through that whole experience to really be who you are, being the psychologist that you are?
I think that um, I think there is intent and purpose in our
Mhm.
lives, and that we do get guided very directly. I think that God opens and closes doors, and that's
Mhm.
a very clear example of a door just being slammed in my
In your
face.
face.
Just really slammed in my face, and I think that also tells you about my own character, all right? I
Yes.
need doors slammed in my face. I will persist on things when I should have stopped and taken a different route, so the
Right.
slammed door was perfect for me,
But
and I
look at how many times that happens to people, right?
yeah,
Because if we sometimes we ignore the whispers, right? Change your
mhm,
major, do
right,
psychology. And you're
right,
like, I love numbers, I love math. And
right,
how do
right.
I get to do the both of them, right?
Yeah, so I think we all have to look, we all have to listen for the direction. I believe the
Mhm.
direction is there.
Yes, that is very true. So for someone who's listening today who says, you know what, I've wanted to be a psychologist, what words of wisdom would you give them to just really pursue that and don't give up on your dream?
Well, one of the things I would encourage is to put yourself into therapy,
Mhm.
right? Find a really good therapist. If you think that you want to work with the brain and with the mental, emotional capabilities of another human being, work with yours first.
Yes, yes. I cannot tell you how many times people come, and I'm not even gonna lie, it's just funny to me how sometimes clients will come and they'll be like, I'm really trying to figure out what do I want to do with my life. And they'll be
Mhm.
like, oh, I think I should be a therapist like you. And I'm like,
Maybe,
let's
maybe.
first work on you first.
Yeah, let's experiment with this. Yeah.
Right. But I think it's also says a lot too because, when people come and they're like, wow, you're really helping me and I'm really able to see life in a different perspective. That's the beauty of life, is really
Mm.
being able to help people and know that this world we live in is not just about us. So tell us about what you do outside of, we know you're a psychologist, but what do you do? Like, how can people work with you and what would that even look like? If someone's like, "I wanna work with Gloria," like,
Well,
she's
it
for
would
me.
be it's easy to find me, all right? You
Okay,
just go to my website, and that's www.vanderhorst.com, which is
okay.
www.drvanderhorst.com. All right. And there you'll find a way to find time on my calendar. You'll find tons of resources. You'll find
Mhm.
all of my blogs there. You'll find videos of different approaches to therapy so that you can educate yourself a bit if you want to come as an individual or a couple. I have videos about different approaches, and it's real easy to find me.
Yes. Now, one thing I hear a lot of times people will tell me, like, I don't know how this person couldn't change, and they've been in therapy or seeing a psychologist for years. And I tell people therapy only works as good as people are willing to be honest with
Right,
themselves.
right.
And so, do you have kind of like this measuring stick, this meter when people come to you to know when people are really being honest and do they really want help? because we would love to think that everybody wants help. But I've had some people tell me I'm literally here because the doctor told me I should be here. I'm here because my spouse told me I need to sign
Right.
up.
Well,
And
and think about it in the context of children, right? Children don't volunteer to come into therapy.
right.
So all of the children that I have ever seen, and I've seen children from preschool all the way through college
Hmm.
level, they are directed there by their parents. And
Hmm.
so establishing rapport with someone who doesn't want to be there is the first step. I have to be able to make a real human connection with
Hmm.
that person. So with kids, you're going to play games, right? With elementary school kids, you're still going to play some games. All right. You're going to do some movement. I have had therapy sessions where we just, walk out of the building and go around the block.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah, give yourself space. Yeah. And so helping someone really requires making a connection with them. And in order to do that, it isn't so much about them as it is about who are you
Hmm.
and what are you willing to offer to a kid who's in first grade, to a teenager who's 12 to 14 and definitely doesn't want to be there. We're all desirous of connection. We're born connected to another human being. We spend our lives seeking connection
Yeah.
with other human beings. So you just have to remember that that child, that unruly kid that doesn't want to be there, is still longing for connection. You just have to find out, how do I connect with this particular kid?
Yes,
Right?
that's right. And that reminds me of when I taught in the classroom, for 8 years. It was just interesting because depending on where you're working at,
Mhm.
some children have higher needs than others. And like I've always explained to people, it's everyone's needy as a kid, but it's
Right?
different types of needs,
Mhm.
Even the parents, there is some dishes I'd be like, okay, these parents are very, very needy
Mhm.
compared to
True.
others.
Yeah.
And so it's really about us being able to really assess what are our true needs, because
Mm.
a lot of times the parents are trying to live out their wants and desires
Right.
to the child. And you're like, okay, this is their life.
Right.
Your
And
job is the guide.
yeah, that neediness does not stop after get to be an adult, right? We're
Right.
still needy ourselves. So it's just part of being human that we long to be connected with other people, and longing for connection really means we have needs.
That's right. That's
Mhm.
right. Well, the first step is we have to acknowledge those needs. So, yes. Well, that brings us to our next question. So, there's someone who might be listening today and they say, you know what? I really like Miss Gloria, but I want to know something a little bit deeper. So, what would you say in life's challenges? As I explain it all the time, I tell people life is a roller coaster.
It
We
is.
have to ride the wave. It goes up and it goes down.
Mhm.
So, what is something you have learned in your life throughout your life challenges that has made you who you are today?
Well, I have learned to trust myself
Hmm.
and to challenge myself to take the perceptions that I have about me and put them in front of other people that I trust. And
Mm.
that's a tough thing to do.
Oh, most definitely.
Very, very tough thing to do, to be transparent with someone else about, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm hoping for, here's what I'm planning, and to get a check from somebody else that you really trust and can be honest and straightforward with you.
Yeah.
Finding those people is really important in your life.
Yes. And so what would you tell someone who has maybe started out from their roots in their childhood with their own parents of not being able to really trust people? Because as we know, the cycle repeats itself until we choose to break the cycle. And so what words of wisdom would you give them if they're trying to figure out how do I know I can really trust? Because for some people who had trusting parents and their upbringing was, pretty stable,
Mm.
trust they know the difference. But for someone who didn't have that, it's hard for them to know.
I think it's very important, and I will tell you, even in my own personal story, I have trust issues, right? I have trust and distrust experiences, and uncovering those is really important. Every one of our quirks has a root to it.
Mhm.
And if you can go back and find the root, then you can automatically change the dynamic for yourself. So
Yeah.
be curious is really critical. Be really interested. So I have this habit, I have this routine, or I don't trust people, or I don't want to engage with people. I'm going to ask myself, why? Where's that come from?
That's right.
Right? Because we were born to be connected with other people. And so when I can discover what's the root, what's the original injury for me, and that original injury can happen day one,
Yes.
right? It can happen on day one. And so when you can uncover that original injury, there's an immediate freedom, an immediate release that, oh, that's why I keep doing this, right? And that aha moment just brings you forward. And one of the things I've done recently is to develop a book for people to encourage them to find those aha moments. It's a journal book. There are 52 essays, and the facing page is blank.
Okay.
Most journal books have um, lines on the facing pages. They expect
Mhm.
you to react in terms of words and language,
Mhm.
right? But we don't have language when we come into the world. We
That's
have
true.
feelings, we have emotions, and those need to be expressed in terms of maybe scribbling on the page, or writing pictures on the page, doing stick figures. There are a variety of different ways that we can tap into the early meaning of our
Yeah.
relationships and our life experiences. So, this book is really designed for every person to be able to uncover what are the dynamics that characterize them, that are currently holding them back, and
Mhm.
that they can begin to use this as a tool to heal from early injuries and to be really curious about who am I? How did I get here? And what do I want to do to change?
Yes, it's really all about discovering your inner curiosity. I love that.
Mhm.
Well, as we prepare to come to a close, tell us what are some words of wisdom? If you want to leave us with a favorite quote or favorite scripture, what is it that you would love to leave our listeners with? And as we remind them to make sure that they connect with you and get the journal and just really work with you to work on themselves to be the best version of themselves.
I want to encourage everyone to be curious, right? Curiosity is the key to understanding ourselves and to making changes. We can't get there unless we first are curious about, why am I thinking this? Why am I behaving this way? Why am I having these particular feelings? So I want to encourage everybody to be curious.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Miss Gloria. And one more time, as we come to a close, tell our listeners how can they stay connected with you and work with you.
They can find me online at my website, www.drvanderhorst.com, and they can get a copy of my book, which is Read, Reflect, Respond, the 3 R's of Growth and Change. And they can find access to me even through the book.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. You are phenomenal. You are amazing. And as we close, we always want to remind everyone to make sure that you are staying curious. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Rooted Within Her, your number one go to podcast. If you heard something today that resonated with you, make sure you screenshot, tag us on all social media platforms. Tell us what your thoughts were, what were your takeaways, and make sure you go to rootedwithinher.com so you can access all of our resources, join our challenges, find out about life coachings. And don't forget about our amazing, phenomenal retreats. So make sure you go to rootedwithinher.com. And again, thank you for listening. And I want you to have a super phenomenal day because you are God's masterpiece.
Say, I'ma still have my way. I'm alright, that's for sure.